Singh. Now we move on to the next component of our panel discussion. We have 3 discussants. I'm going to call each one of them, and then they are going to pose a question. You can pose your question to a particular panelist or keynote speaker, or to all of them. So we will decide. So I would first invite Miss Manika Lamba, who is doing her PhD at Delhi University. She herself is a fairly active social media person. So that's how I found her. Anyway, over to you, Manika. Go and ask your question.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for such a wonderful presentation and talk. So first, my question is about the biasness, and I will subdivide that question into 3 categories. So I want to know how to overcome these biases. There was an article published in 2014 in Forbes that talk about the population biases, and which was based on age, racial group, and income. And for instance, that Instagram platform has special appeal to adults between the age of 18 and 29 to a particular racial group of African American, Latinos, and women who are from urban dwellers. Second, there is an example of Pinterest, which is dominated by women between 25 and 34 age group, with an average household income of $100,000. Also, you can see there's a shift of younger population from Facebook to Instagram because of their relatives or their family member have joined them, the platform Facebook, and they don't want to share the information with them. Second, my subcategory of biasness is maybe caused by the user account on social media. As it has been touched upon that the social media, they may not be the real people. And for example, the celebrities account is handled by their staff or the politicians, or also the publisher, they overshare the research paper being published. So maybe to increase their all metric score. And this can skew the research data. Also, there are fake accounts and bots, which also affecting the social media research data.
Could you be precise and ask your question, because we are running out of time? I know you have lots of good information and data, very nice, but could you come to
this? Is just to this was to how to overcome these biases. The population biases, the biases due to the accounts, fake account, the biases due to the algorithm confounding.
Yes. Okay. Who would like to answer this question? It's open to any one of you. I would maybe, Dr. Verma, would you like to answer this question?
Sure. No, actually, the biases that you mentioned are very, very valid. Not just that, there are several other biases also. So one is what you mentioned is a platform bias. What kind of, the users it attracts and so on. All the examples that you gave make the point there. But then there are also population biases. For example, in Myanmar and few other countries, is very well known that one platform is dictating everything, right? So that is another thing. The third bias, especially which is very evident these days, is the data bias. Any social media researcher would find that depending on what data that is being fed to a model that is being created to understand social media inferences and so on, so that dictates everything, right? So there are several studies. In fact, we have conducted some research which got published in the World Wide Web conference, the web conference, that talks about removal of the bias also. But then the bias typically comes from the data. So, for example, there are many hate speech related things. If the data is always associated with a term like women or a term like certain racial or religious entities, by themselves, they are not really, the hate words. But because these words are associated in the utterances that are being fed to the system, that would induce bias towards even those non-biased words. So there are techniques to remove those biases and so on, but we'll not get there. So in other words, in short, what I'd like to say is there are not just a few biases that you mentioned, there are several other kinds of biases as well. And then it is becoming increasingly important to understand what biases are there and how do we address them.
You want to say something to this question?
Yes, Dr. Shanley. So just what Professor Verma said, just addition to that. So earlier when we were talking about like the deep learning frameworks or machine learning techniques, and they were all about predicting different scenarios. It could be just sentiment analysis. So at that time, in the beginning, we were mostly interested in the predictive ability of these systems. And now the major research is on the interpretability, and if we can remove these kind of biases, which not is present in just the algorithm which we have written, but it could also be present in the data set. So that's what we can maybe say that maybe next 3-4 years we will see a lot of work where people are more doing work on removing the biases which are present at different levels of this entire learning pipeline.
Thank you, Mayank.
Thank you.
So